update it to send it flying to new targets after I fire it, which will just make this ability feel a lot more intuitive with how most other mages feel when you pick up a character in Smite. You can see it still places a harvest plant at the feet where it hits, or at max range, so you can see here I throw it out there. You got that skull there, so you can still use this to place skulls. So that's the main update here, just making this a bit more intuitive feeling ability in Smite. This was a more minor rework, but the next ability is going to be like a completely new ability. So this is Harvest. You can see this new targeter shape. It's a area with 3 skulls kind of side of it. You fire it, a brief windup happens and explodes, creating 3 seeds around it. You can see here I can use this to damage ability or damage enemies. So you can use it to actually poke enemy gods, and you can also use it to poke and set up your seeds at the same time. Skulls, you can also tell, are upgrading immediately to the flower stage. They're no longer going to the bud stage. We're focusing more on you utilizing the charging flowers, and we're giving you much more control over them. So before you'd fire this, and it would just charge at the nearest enemy god and try and follow them. Here you can actually aim it. So you can see when I attack it here, I can aim it, I attack here, it'll try and bite as it gets close. And it's controlled entirely by my basic attack range. So you can see here, like if I'm really close, I can aim a little bit to the right, and it'll go out to the right. I can aim a little bit to the left, it'll go to the left. I can send it wherever I want, and if I have multiple of these out, we'll let them upgrade a little bit, pre-plan a little bit and have a backup so I can use. You can send them to like, hey, they're trying to walk this way. Oh, they're trying to get cut off. I can cut them off this way. Send them out flying that way. You have a lot more play with where you're going to actually send these out. Another important thing is you can send them through the walls. So you can actually catch people who are trying to run through areas. You can catch people who are trying to hide over walls. Yeah, there's no escaping her plants. They're nature. They just kind of move through it.
Their nature.
Nature perseveres.
So that's the main thing here is it's now a cooldown-based ability, which means as much as you can't do 6 plants immediately from storing them up, over the course of a game with some CDR, you'll actually be casting this significantly more often. You will have more plants to play with. Especially when you're trying to Phoenix Siege, you're going to be chucking these at the enemy all the time. You'll be throwing these out there, trying to poke your opponents with them, trying to lead them off, head them off. And the most important thing is enemies have a clear understanding of what they need to do to avoid this. They need to get out of the way. They need to try and outrun it. It's no longer this kind of like you have to just have someone tell you, oh yeah, do a little shuffle step like this and you'll avoid it every time.
Right.
So no more shuffle step, but more plants.
Onto the third ability. This is going to be very familiar to players. It's just going to... The only real major difference is that now this does damage on takeoff, so you can see that I hurt my target there. As well as I don't have the pre-seed that I get before because there's no tier 2 plant, as well as there's no really harvest ability to cast upgrade. This damage is really there for the Persephone players who were doing the things like casting this and basic attacking after they leapt for some damage, just to make sure that that's still there if they're escaping from a target jumping on them.
You know what that makes me think of? Neath backflip.
Actually, that was when we were developing her initially. That was like one thing we wanted to be sure that you could do was like backflip. We were talking about like how backflip interacts, making sure that she could go over walls because this was considered a leap, and making sure that that was very clear to players. So yeah, it does have a little bit of that feel.
Nice.
You can now pop this down and then leap and send a charging army at your team pretty much on demand, which is definitely a lot more flexibility than she had before. And then finally.
Awesome.
We'll see if Bot's Orbit behaves. It doesn't like you always. The ultimate, previously what would happen is you wouldn't be able to move further out. Now that, yeah, see, Bot's Orbit doesn't behave. That Odin did not respect anything. Feel fair. And so we thought about what we want to do the passive. We thought the idea of her going to this death realm and reviving and doing something after she dies was still very core to her thematics and something players would appreciate. So in this case, let me turn off God mode. You now enter the death realm. You can see I now can't see anyone. I can't interact with anyone. I don't know where anyone is, but now I'm in this kind of planning stage. So let's say I die in mid lane and I think, hey, they're gonna have a fight around Fire Giant. Let's place a few seeds here. Then let's maybe walk over here, put one back here, one back here. And then finally, just in case, I'm gonna put one in mid just to make sure I'm good to